All right, so we are recording now. All right, so can you see my screen? Oh no, I haven't shared my screen yet, so you definitely can't see it. Hold on a second, ladies. Um, the thing is, when I share my screen, I don't always see when someone's in the waiting room. All right, I'm going to share it. Okay, so all right, there's Bernadette. Okay, let me just let Bernadette in. There she is. Hi, Bernadette. Oh, she's just connecting to the audio. All right, so Shelby's here as well. I think Shelby's here, but she's joining. All right, Shelby's here, Bernadette's here. Okay. Bernadette and Shelby, I did just ask the other ladies, is there anything in particular that you're hoping to learn from this call today? Anything in particular?
No, I'm just here to hear what you have to say.
All right, okay. All right, so I have
Figure it can never hurt to learn more.
exactly, and that's the one thing with menopause is we don't get told about it, right? Your doctor doesn't call you up when you're 35 and say, right, this is what's about to happen. Like we aren't prepared for it. And we aren't taught about it. And I think that's one of the worst things. So all right, I'm gonna get started. I'm just gonna minimize this. Okay, so can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. All right, so today we're going to talk about understanding perimenopause and menopause. All right, so we're going to start with the basics, like what is perimenopause? Because not everyone knows. So it's basically the transition period before menopause. It's the beginning, the end of ovarian function. So that's what happens when we go into menopause, our ovaries are no longer functioning. They're winding down during the perimenopause um, process. Typically, it begins in your 40s, but it can start in your mid 30s. It's not unheard of for clients to go through perimenopause or the start of it when they're 35, 36. And also, some people are forced into early menopause if they've had certain surgeries, cancer. There are some medications that can actually put women in early menopause surgically. So it's not uncommon for somebody in their early 30s, mid 30s to be in perimenopause. But typically, it begins when you're in your 40s. And it's caused by fluctuating estrogen and progesterone levels. And it can last, and this is the bad news, like it can last 4 to 10 plus years. And this is just perimenopause. So you might start the early years when you're say 35 and it could last till you're 45 plus and everyone's different, so that's why there's 4 to 10 years, 4 to 10-ish years, because everyone's journey is different. Okay, and then we got menopause, which is the end. This is the end of your menstrual cycle, and it's diagnosed 12 months without a period. So when you've gone 12 whole months without a period, you have hit menopause. And menopause is literally one day. It's just one day. It's the day when you are officially 12 months without a period. And then after that one day, you are then postmenopause. So it's not uncommon either to go 10 or 11 months without a period. And then you think, oh, I'm in menopause now. And then all of a sudden, the heavens open up and you've got this period that's come out of nowhere. So that is typical as well. So you're not officially menopausal until you've gone 12 full months without a period. And the average age of menopause is around 51. So that's just the average age. And every person born a woman will arrive at menopause one day. And it's a natural biological process. And the truth is that there is no one-time blood, urine, or saliva test that can tell your doctor like where you are in that process. It's the same when you're in puberty, right? There's nothing, no blood test that can tell you where you are in the journey. And that's because your hormones are fluctuating so wildly. So I know people will say, oh, you just need to get tested, get your FSH tested, or see where your progesterone is, your estrogen. But the truth is, because they're fluctuating so much, like any blood test or saliva test, it's just not going to tell you much. You know, so perimenopause is diagnosed via symptoms. So that's it. It's just via your symptoms. So if you go to speak to your doctor, and this is why some women are dismissed, because people will say, "Oh, well, you're still having periods, so you're not perimenopausal," and that's not true. The process can start as early as 35, and if you're having symptoms, you're not feeling good. Maybe you're having like brain fog, night sweats, hot flashes, anxiety, depression. Maybe you just don't feel yourself and your periods have started to change. Those are all symptoms that you are in perimenopause. So, okay, so I found this picture. I thought this was a really cool picture here. So, um, estrogen is not just like a pretty hormone that's key to productive capabilities. It's responsible for so much more. And this is why there are so many symptoms that come with going through this change. There are like estrogen receptors. So you see these red dots. These are estrogen receptors. So they're throughout almost every organ system in your body. Um, so as your levels drop, these cells begin to lose their ability to assist in maintaining your health in other areas, including heart, cognitive function, bone health, and sugar balance. So I thought this was a really cool picture just to show you the impact of estrogen and the estrogen receptors throughout the body. Um, so yeah, I wanted to share that because I thought that was quite interesting, just to give you a little visual there. All right, so I've listed common symptoms here, but there are 44 known symptoms in total. So I just wanted to go through the most common ones, which are irregular periods, hot flashes and night sweats, mood changes and irritability, sleep disturbances, decreased libido, memory issues like brain fog, vaginal dryness, weight gain, fatigue, muscle and joint pain, skin, hair, and nail changes. But there are other symptoms as well, even things like frozen shoulder, um, an increase in UTIs, itchy ears. There are 44 in total, but I didn't want to list all of them, just give you the main ones. So these are the most common symptoms that a lot of women um, suffer with. All right, and this is another great visual here. So this is the chaos. So this is the picture on your left. This is like pre-menopause. So this was, when you're in your 20s. This is the pattern of your cycle. And then as you can see on the right-hand side, this is where the chaos begins because we can see like estrogen, it's up, then it's down, then it's up, then it's down, and we can see that progesterone is pretty low. We can see that it tapers off down here, and that's what causes the symptoms that we feel on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, that's the zone of chaos. All right, so okay. All right, and this is another great visual here as well. I love this. So we can see at the bottom here, it's got the age from 35 to 65 plus, and then we can see your estrogen levels here. So in perimenopause, and you can see on the right-hand side where it's in the red, that's when your symptoms are going to be strong, and then we can see it tapers off. You have fewer symptoms as you become post-menopause, and then in perimenopause, we can see this is when we start to notice the symptoms, things like insomnia, night sweats, irregular periods, mood swings, and then we can see typically between the ages of 40 to 45 to 55, This is in the thick of it. This is when the symptoms are at their worst. Um, and then we can see that your menstrual period stops around between 50 to 55, and then we can see that these symptoms still continue up to your 65, but that doesn't mean that you're going to suffer from the ages of 40 to 65. I was having a conversation with my mum at the weekend. She's 66 and she still has night sweats now. Um, so just to show you kind of what the timeline looks like here. All right, does anyone have any questions? Anything?
I have a question.
Okay.
Hey, let me turn my camera on. Um, so like for one, thank you so much. I don't know why you go to the doctor and they don't, I mean, explain this to you. Like
This is
I
the problem. This is half of the problem, is the lack of education.
I mean, it's just so simple. I mean, it should be something that's part of a office visit, but whatever. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
No, it was very interesting to see that fluctuation because I went to a functional doctor because a year ago I started to get really bad anxiety and this weird heat intolerance. Like I cannot go outside when it's like over 80 degrees out, maybe 85. I don't know what that's like in metric, sorry. So yeah, when it's hot or humid, I cannot go outside. I feel like I can't breathe. I was getting shortness of breath. So I wanted to ask you, is that another symptom, this weird shortness of breath thing that my lungs are fine? There's
Yes.
nothing wrong with me.
But if we go back, because we've still got a lot more to cover here, but if I go back to show you that visual of where our estrogen receptors are, you can see that yes, in your lungs you've got estrogen receptors here. So if you're noticing like anxiety and shortness of breath, and even like a rapid heartbeat, that's another symptom as well. So yeah, they're all symptoms. So like you probably thought, oh my God, am I going mad? Is there something wrong with me? And it's
I
probably, it might not be. Obviously do other testing as well, but it could definitely be perimenopausal symptoms.
thought I was going mad. Like my heart was racing for no reason. I was going to all these doctors. My blood pressure was high. I don't have high blood pressure.
Hmm.
So I mean, I got on some meds, but like still cannot be explained. So I went to a functional doctor and they said, "Oh, well your estrogen is high." And it's like, "Well, according to this chart, I mean, it depends on what time of the month you're looking at my estrogen."
Yeah,
So it doesn't
exactly.
really mean anything, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And people will be like, oh, there's a lot of scaremongering out there of like, oh, estrogen dominance and stuff like that. And it depends where you test in your cycle. You could test today and you could be high, tomorrow you could be low. It depends.
Right.
So yeah, so that's why we don't really rely on blood tests and things like that, because your hormones are fluctuating too much to give you concrete answers. All right, so okay, so I'm going to keep this here like this. This is better because I couldn't see you before, and sometimes I'm like, are they still there? Are they listening? Because I couldn't see you. So I'm going to keep this, keep you in the square in the corner there. All right, so let me just go back. Where were we?
Can I just say, Erica, my blood pressure went up. I have always had like beautiful, I've been proud of my blood pressure as if it's something that I have control over. That went up, and so did my cholesterol. So
Yeah.
it's aces.
Okay, me too. Okay. Well, now it's normal, but that's just because I'm taking care of myself.
Right.
We're going to touch on that now as well. So, and this is another thing as well, like the emotional and mental health impact that it has. This is really something that I try to talk about a lot because a lot of people are like, I'm just so depressed. I just feel off. I just feel flat. What is wrong with me? And it's your hormones are having a huge impact on your mental health. So things like increased anxiety and depression, like hormonal mood swings, just irritability, just like rage. I'm trying to explain this to my husband the other day. Like, he said, you're really snappy lately. And I've really noticed it. Like, this isn't me. I'm not really a snappy person, but I have definitely been more snappy and just irritable recently. And then obviously that can come with like confidence and identity challenges because you're like, who is this person? I don't recognize myself some days. So it definitely does have an emotional impact as well. And then we've got long-term health considerations as well. So things like Postmenopausal women are at a higher risk of osteoporosis due to the lack of estrogen, increased cardiovascular risk. Um, Heart disease is the number one killer for women, and we see a natural change in cholesterol levels and blood pressure, like without changing anything to what you eat or how you exercise. It is natural to see your cholesterol levels rise, which is scary because you're not doing anything wrong, and then all of a sudden, like you're taking care of yourself, you get your bloods, and you're like your cholesterol's high, and that's just due to the changes that are happening and the loss of estrogen. So it's a natural, it's happening naturally. And then also as well, like UTI, some health issues down there. Um, that those are some long-term health considerations. Some things that can help with that is vaginal dryness, um, itching, and what's the other one? An increase in UTIs. You've got vaginal estrogen that can really help with that. I had a client who was really struggling with she had so many UTIs, and she recently started taking just the vaginal estrogen, and everybody can take that. It's safe for everybody, and she's noticed a huge change in how she feels. So it can come with those long-term health considerations as well. All right, so the part that so many women are interested in is the weight gain. Um, all right, I wasn't going to skip that part. So it's like kind of like, why does it happen? And the truth is, there isn't yet a study that says or proves that we menopause causes weight gain. All right, so it's not that all of a sudden you hit a certain age and the weight piles on. I know that it feels that way, but going through the perimenopause and menopause does not cause weight gain. But what it does do is the hormonal shifts do impact your body composition. So the decline in estrogen affects your fat storage. We see decreased muscle mass. We become less physical as we get older as well. And we are more prone to insulin resistance and pre-diabetes because estrogen plays an important role in glucose metabolism, and in its absence, it can contribute to metabolic dysfunction. So what happens with the weight is when we are going through perimenopause, it's tough for so many women, especially those who aren't supported, don't have the knowledge, and are not sure what steps they need to take. You know, when you haven't slept well, you've got no motivation to go to the gym. When you're feeling depressed, you don't want to eat, good foods, healthy foods. We tend to, maybe get takeout. We move less, and that in itself is what can cause fat gain. If we're eating more if we're eating more and we're moving less, for any person that is going to cause weight gain. So a lot of the time, it's not the perimenopause has caused the fat loss. It's more our habits have changed. We don't feel good, so we don't want to get to the gym. We don't want to go outside. We don't want to go for walks. We don't want to make ourselves a nutritious meal. We kind of just look for convenience. So when we find that that's happening on a regular basis, that comes with fat gain when we're not taking care of ourselves. Um, and then that brings me on to the fat distribution change. So before menopause, fat is typically stored in our hips and butts. And that's to kind of give us that to be able to birth children, right? So after menopause, we notice that fat distribution is stored more centrally. All right. And that's what a lot of women see. They around their butt and their hips, it goes from there and it moves, the fat is moved more centrally. And that's typically more for women who are post-menopause. That's where we see that change. Not typically for women who are maybe in perimenopause, but menopause, post-menopause. Because as well, our estrogen levels become not non-existent. We are still producing estrogen, but a very little amount. So it's like if you look at a male's physique, as they get older, they carry it more around their waist. You never really see a guy who's got a tiny waist and big butt and hips, right? We just don't see that, right? So we kind of carry weight kind of the way that males do. We carry it more around our central, and we don't carry it as much on our butt and our hips. So we kind of mirror the way that guys hold fat and store fat. So yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking then about a guy with a tiny waist and like big butt and hips. So it's unheard of, right? You don't see that. So our fat is stored more centrally, and this can cause an increase in visceral fat. And this is the fat that we want to avoid because it's the fat that's it's building up around your organs, and that can come with a whole cascade of um, health problems, so such as increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Hold on, I just went. Hold on 1 second. Let me go back one. All right, so fat distribution changes. So estrogen plays a major role in maintaining muscle mass, strength, and recovery. So when estrogen drops, so does, excuse me, our ability to stimulate muscle protein synthesis, which is basically building muscle, um, to recover from workouts and daily stress as well, and hold on to the muscle that we already have. So we can see like how important estrogen is, plays a huge, major role in maintaining mass, strength, recovery as well. All right, so there's obviously why this matters. So less muscle, we're losing muscle. We've got reduced insulin resistance, which makes blood sugar harder to control. Greater risk of injury, frailty, and bone loss over time. Increased joint pain. So don't forget your muscles protect your bones. It's not all about looking good. Like that muscle is that protection for your bones. Um, and it can cause the less muscle that we have, the slower metabolism. We will see like a small drop in metabolism as well if we as we lose muscle. And this is typically as well while after the age of, I think it's 60, we see a drop in metabolism, not a huge drop, but a slight drop. And that's mostly due to less activity and a drop in muscle mass as well. All right. And then after the age of 30, we naturally lose 3 to 8% of muscle each decade. So that's after 30. And then in menopause, this speeds up dramatically. So a couple of signs here that you may be losing muscle, like if you just feel like less firm, a little bit softer, and even things like maybe like climbing the stairs, carrying bags, or maybe you're like gaining fat, but you're not eating more or moving less. So there's some signs there that maybe you are losing a little bit of muscle. And I think you'll be able to notice it in your body shape as well. When you look at yourself in the mirror, you might feel that you've got, a little bit more loose skin. Those are signs that you're losing muscle. All right, so what helps to maintain and build muscle? So obviously strength training, ideally 2 to 4 times a week. And I don't want you ladies to feel that you have to do 4 times a week. 2 times a week is still great. You can still build muscle training 2 days a week. As long as you are pushing yourself hard in your sets, you can still build muscle 2 times a week. You don't have to go 4, 5, 6 times a week. Protein at every meal. I'm going to say aim for around 100 grams of protein per day. Recovery and sleep is a must. And remember, muscle builds when you are resting. And as I say, your rest days are your grow days. All right. So recovery and sleep is super important. And we want to avoid chronic dieting. So if we are doing like a chronic diet where we are following like 1,000 calorie a day diet, you're going to be more prone to losing more muscle if you are chronic dieting. Keep a check on your vitamin D levels as well. And some HRT may offer some protection, but it is individualized. All right. So some effective strategies for managing weight. So the first one is going to be trying to adopt more of an anti-inflammatory diet, which is like the Mediterranean diet. Okay. So a Mediterranean diet contains complex carbohydrates, so things like whole grains, starchy vegetables, legumes, and fruits. So trying to avoid the simple carbohydrates, we want to focus more on complex carbohydrates that are high in fiber. We also want to focus on lean proteins, so things like Greek yogurt, you've got chicken, turkey, beans as well, lean beef. Those are all great lean protein sources. And then your healthy fats are going to be key as well because you're going to be getting your omega-3s, and that is key in trying to lower inflammation. So things like nuts, seeds, avocado, fatty fish, so things like salmon, sea bass, olive oil. These foods are going to really help to lower inflammation because we do see an increase in inflammation because estrogen is an anti-inflammatory. So as we stop producing as much estrogen, we do see an increase in inflammation. So your diet is going to be key in helping to manage inflammation. So as estrogen levels decrease, you lose an incredibly valuable ally in the fight against inflammation. So diet is definitely going to be key. I would limit added sugars, alcohol, and just ultra processed foods because they're not helping, right? They're not helping with inflammation. They're going to be making inflammation worse. But that's not to say that you shouldn't have alcohol or you shouldn't ever have ultra processed foods. Of course, you shouldn't cut those out of your diet completely, but just limit those foods and really try to eat, follow more of a anti-inflammatory diet is really going to help you feel better whilst you go through this transition. Again, fiber, I will always keep banging on about fiber. Fiber is so key. So trying to consume a minimum of 25 grams a day. Majority of your fiber we want to come from food. The fiber improves your gut health. It regulates your blood sugar. So your blood sugar is not stable as you're going through the change. You're going to notice some blood sugars, highs and lows. So fiber is going to help regulate your blood sugar. It lowers inflammation as well, and it supports immune function. And guess what? It also reduces cholesterol. So your diet can really help manage some of these symptoms that are happening behind the scenes. And if you struggle to get your fiber in, I'm not totally against taking a fiber supplement. Ideally, we want to be getting fiber from food. But if some days you struggle, or maybe when you're traveling, or maybe you want to get more, because more than 25 grams of fiber is okay too. I would say anything between 25 to 40 grams of fiber. All right, you've only got 10 minutes, damn it. Okay. Yeah, your supplements are fine. So taking a supplement, but ideally, if you can, try to get the majority of your fiber from food. And then getting enough protein as well is going to be key to managing your weight. We know that protein keeps you fuller for longer as well. So that's going to help with managing weight. So approximately 1.2 to 2.2 grams per every kilo of weight. So I would say a minimum around 100 grams. Obviously, for some women, they're going to want a little bit more than 100 grams, but the bare minimum, I'm going to say around 100 grams for most women. All right, so some exercise recommendations here. So obviously we know exercise can deliver improvements to cardiovascular, metabolic, and mental health. So in menopause, decreasing hormone levels lead to both muscle bone loss. So your focus with exercise is to strategically to counteract this effect. So a good balance of some strength, cardiovascular, and mobility exercises are recommended. So weightlifting, as we know, can promote muscle gain, which can help counteract the natural age-related decline in muscle mass. And it's also important to include some aerobic exercise, such as walking, jogging, biking, or running, to help with your respiratory, I can't say this word. There's certain words that I just cannot pronounce, right? I'm going to try one more time. Respiratory. No, I still can't say it right.
Respiratory.
That's it. Yes. There's certain words I just cannot pronounce. My mum is exactly the same. So, all right. And then cardiovascular endurance as we age. So that then brings me on to, okay, so, and the truth is there's no magic exercise plan, okay? It's because everyone's life is different. So the way that you move your body, I want you to think about it in these three key areas. So we want to do some cardio. We want to do some resistance training, and we want to try and include some mobility and pelvic floor movements because your pelvic floor is going to support your bladder control. It's going to reduce incontinence, improve sexual function, and it also supports your core stability. So when we go through menopause, as I said, we see inflammation, stiffness, joint pain. So mobility exercises are really going to help with that. and I've got a little exercise kind of example here of what that might look like. So you got 1 to 3 low intensity steady state cardio sessions. So I don't want you to feel that I should be doing 3 or I should be doing full weightlifting because your body, your time, your life is different to maybe somebody else. So anything between 1 to 3. So steady state cardio, that can be biking, it can be jogging, it can be on the elliptical. Um, and you don't have to shy away from HIIT training as well. Like if you enjoy maybe some interval training once or twice a week, probably wouldn't do any more than 2 times a week, but you can include that as well. So maybe if you want to do like one low intensity steady state cardio, one HIIT session, and maybe 2 or 3 or 4 weightlifting sessions as well. And then I think a morning stretch session would be great, including some mobility and some pelvic floor exercises around 3 times a week. Like I said, how each person moves their body is going to depend on their time, what they like to do, and what they have access to. There isn't a one size fits all, but focus on moving your body in the 3 ways outlined above, and like you will massively be helping yourself. All right, ladies, I'm just trying to speed up a little bit because I want to get through everything. I didn't realize that the 40 minutes is nearly up. Okay, and these lifestyle changes, like these are so huge. These are going to help more than maybe you realize. But things like stress reduction, managing stress. So stress reduction is going to boost overall mental health, improve your overall well-being, and lessen some of the symptoms of menopause. So things like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, journaling, time in nature, um, setting boundaries, just calling your besties or having a good old ugly cry are fantastic ways of reducing stress. All right. So that is so important right now because your body is going through so much. Your brain is having to like recalibrate itself. It's having to live without some really important hormones. So this stress reduction is going to be super beneficial. And then we've got sleep. Like sleep is absolutely huge. We know already that it's a notorious sleep disruptor, and it's a lack of sleep is going to cause night sweats, resentlessness, sleep apnea. So it's so important that we focus on sleep hygiene. It's absolutely critical. So try and keep electronics out of the bedroom. Try not to eat too close to bedtime because that's not going to help your body slow down and get yourself into a sleep state. Try and keep your room cool. Avoid or reduce alcohol. That's going to make things worse, like 2 a.m. wake ups. It makes hot flashes worse, night sweats. So try to go to sleep around the same time as well. If you're somebody who goes to bed at midnight one night and then another night you're going to bed at like 8 a.m., like your sleep schedule is going to be all over the place. So try to go to sleep roughly the same time, wake up the same time each day. And avoid napping if you can. Not saying that you shouldn't nap, but napping is just going to make it a little bit harder to go to sleep later in the evening. Okay, and then another obvious one that's super important is self-care, self-prioritization. So this is probably one of the hardest things for women is prioritizing themselves. So, and it will come with some challenges, but you will absolutely benefit from it. So just saying no sometimes to the requests of kid, partner, or parents so that you can do things for yourself, like meditating, getting to bed early, getting in a workout, and negotiating some downtime for yourself where you just get some time to yourself to relax. Great, ladies, we're getting through these. Okay, and social connections are key as well. So like healthy relationships, um, two psychological nutrients essential for us. We're social creatures and we rely on relationships for encouragement, support, validation. So spend as much time as you can with people who lift you up, even if this means like you're reaching out to communities. You've got some Facebook groups as well, menopause Facebook groups. You've got our group chats as well. So it's important that you stay connected. All right, and some medical options here. So we've got HRT. Obviously, you need to be a candidate for HRT, but that can be something that can be really, really beneficial for a lot of women. Antidepressants as well. Don't be afraid of antidepressants. They can be super helpful as well. Vaginal estrogen, as I mentioned earlier. And speak to your doctor And if your doctor is dismissing you, if you're not feeling great right now and you're being dismissed by your doctor, then consult a specialist, okay? Don't suffer in silence. All right, and then we've got some support and resources. So you've got books, podcasts, menopause clinics, support and online communities. Talk to your loved ones as well. Like, speak to your partner, speak to your husband, your wife, and tell them how you're feeling. I think it's really important that we speak up about how you're feeling. I know I do a lot of the time because I want my husband, I want him to understand why sometimes I'm feeling upset or, down or irritable. Therapy and counseling as well. And then again, talk to your doctor. And then the long-term mindset is focus on habits, not just your weight. Build consistent, sustainable habits that are going to make this process easier and tailor your lifestyle to your menopausal needs. And then lastly, in summary, menopause is natural. Understanding is powerful. Every single journey is unique. Support and knowledge matter so, so much. And any weight gain is manageable with diet, activity, and support. And I just want to add there as well that menopause doesn't prevent you from losing weight. All right, ladies. Well, we made it. We've got a minute left. So, has anyone got anything to say? Any questions? Let me stop sharing. All right, ladies. Oh, there's some chat, there's some messages here. I didn't see these.
It's just little.
All right, okay.
I would say if any of you are having trouble getting a doctor to listen to you, I like my entire algorithm is like all menopause stuff these days. But Mary Claire Haver on her website has a list of providers by state that like people have recommended who they've had good experiences with. And I just found a doctor to help me out with that way. So I would say like that's a pretty good resource.
Mhm.
That might have something listed in your state. Because sometimes I think it's hard to find doctors to listen to,
Yeah,
even if your OBGYN is female, like mine, who was not listening to me.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Shelby.
Mhm.
So we are going to cut out in a minute, but has anyone got any questions? Is there anything, any takeaways there?
No, this was all great. Thank you so much, Laura.